Hello everybody, welcome to Sniper Sundays on Sunday the 8th of December. Hope you're all well, had a great weekend and ready to get stuck into a new week. Now this week is a big week, massive week fundamentally. Expect loads of volatility this week, loads of movement and loads of action. So saying that, I've analysed quite a lot of pairs and I'm going to get straight into it. So first, as always, going to look at the fundamentals. Always important to know what is coming up ahead of us the next day, the next week, or over the next couple of days. It's always one of the most important things. So actually just saying that, guys, I'm just going to update you on a couple of things as we're coming towards the end of the year. So I've got this week now, I'm going to be dropping in the new webinar, which is going to be focusing on a little bit of price action, just to finish off some of the price action we've been talking about, and then talking about the Fibonacci. So I'm going to be explaining that in detail and going into that to explain exactly what it is, how we use it, why we use it, and so on. So we get a full round picture and you can understand the reasoning and everything behind it and how to use it to the best of your advantage for getting into trades, exiting trades, and so on. So that's going to be dropping in this week, and then I've got lots of other stuff as well. So I've created a trading log, just doing the final touches, which I'll be dropping into the group. So then you can track every single trade you take. It'll work out the pip value for you. It's quite a handy tool, and then each month you can enter your trades into that. So each and every trade that you take, you put in your entry price, your exit price, how much money you made, how much percentages you made, and it gives you a full breakdown. So then at the end of every month, you have an exact figure on what you're making, so you can keep a track record on all of your trades. So I'm dropping that in. All of this stuff I'm dropping in very soon and coming up to Christmas. Now, I'm getting a lot of messages of people asking me about Christmas and are we trading? And the answer is yes. It does slow down over Christmas. The volatility does slow down, especially the weeks between Christmas, but the market is still open, apart from the bank holidays, which are obviously like Christmas Day, Boxing Day, the day after, New Year's Day, and stuff like that. But the market is still open, and there is a few moves that do still happen. Now, obviously, you guys know, and those who have been in the group longer, know that at times when there's low volatility, if the market's quiet, that gives us time to concentrate on some other stuff. So what I'm planning to do over Christmas is, if the market is very quiet, then we're going to do some more educational stuff. So we'll jump on some live streams, do some more webinars, and drop in some educational content, so that in that time over Christmas, that obviously it's being put to use. It can be time that you guys look back at all the other webinars, the webinar that I'm dropping this week, and really get to grips with that. So you have some time to literally just look at all of your charts, redo all the key levels, and coming into next year. So you're basically going to the new year ready to hit the market, and you sort of wipe the slate clean, start again, get all new levels on, and we'll be talking about that over the Christmas period as well. So we'll be doing lots more webinars. We're doing lots more live streams. So I'll be dropping webinars in, and then what I'll be doing is following up with live streams, so we can have a session where we just have Q&As, questions and answers, discussing that particular webinar. So you can ask me all the questions. Once you've had time to sort of watch the webinar and digest the information, practice it for a few days, then I'll jump on the live stream, and then we can go over all the questions that you have, and then I can show it to you. So the educational aspect will push even more than normal over the next couple of weeks and over the Christmas period. So there's plenty of stuff to gain from the community over the next couple of weeks, and maybe even more so the most vital and the best that you can get from the community over the next few weeks, or over the Christmas period, because we've all got extra time. We've all got a few days off over Christmas. It does get boring sometimes, with the holidays over Christmas, where we don't do much. So we can really get stuck into the charts, stuck into some webinars, live streams, and educational material. So yeah, it's definitely not one to be missed over those couple of weeks. So going to be doing that, dropping in the as I said, dropping in a webinar this week, and then we'll do a live stream this week as well. I'm going to update our group calendar after I drop into Sniper Sundays to let you know exactly what day and what time those are going to be. And as I said, I'll also be dropping in, hopefully tomorrow, I'll be dropping in that trading log. So what you can do is update all the trades from December, and we can get that log going. But mainly, I want you guys to have it for the new year. I'll drop it in so you can sort of play around with it. But what I want you guys to do is, I'll even do an introduction video on the trading log as well. So what I'll do is I'll do a video on how to use it and what it's for. And then what I really want to do is get that ready for next year, so that coming into the new year, January 1st, soon as we start trading, then any trades we take go into that log. So then we have after the month of January, you know exactly how much percentage you're up, how many pips, how much profit. And also it keeps you to the risk management rule, because you have to put in what you're risking per trade. You have to put in what your risk reward is. So it stops you from doing anything silly. And then what I explained to some guys in the event, which I'm going to explain when I do the trading log video, is I want you guys to show me your trading log. If you guys can show me your trading log in 2, 3, 6 months time and can show me steady growth, then there's a lot more things that can come in the future, which I'm going to explain. But obviously, if you can show me and prove to me that you can give me a trading log that has 6 months of taking 1% trades, and you're building your account, and you're winning however many trades out of 10, and you're profitable, following my trades, even some of your own trades, that's what I want to see. And then there's possibilities in the future. So there's a lot more ideas and a lot more coming in the new year. I explained to people at the event that I've got a lot more in store. Couldn't really say too much because it's a bit of a secret and quite exciting, but the early part of next year, there's a lot coming for the community. So it's very, very, very exciting. But as I said, at the moment, there's lots to come for at the moment, just ahead of us for next week, and then a couple of weeks over Christmas. So definitely this week, we're having the next webinar. We're going to have a live stream about the webinar as well. And then what I'll do is, I've just touching up the final few things on the trading log and a few other bits. But that's all stuff that I want to bring out for the new year. I will drop it in the group before. So as I said, over Christmas, you can get used to things, practice things. And then in the new year, we're going to hit the ground running. And we're going to have a great year. So you'll have lots of tools that you need. And as I said, over the Christmas period, lots of educational material. So this week, as I said, is a big, big week, guys. Massive week fundamentally. So let's just go over it now. We got lots of news for the pound, the euro, and the US dollar. So we obviously know about non-farm payroll, which I'm going to go over in a minute. But let's look at what's ahead of us. That was last week. Let's just look at what's ahead. So Monday, we've got the Reserve Bank of Australia speaking at 10 o'clock in the evening, UK time. So that's one to watch out for. We'll see how the Aussie dollar is going to react. I'll get to that in a minute on the charts. Tuesday's a quiet day. Wednesday, then we've got China, US dollar, and lots of US dollar news. We've got CPI, but then we've got the FOMC economic projections. We've got the FOMC statement, and we've got the federal fund rate, the interest rate. So, and then we've got the FOMC press conference. So loads and loads and loads of news Wednesday evening. So that's an interesting one to watch out for. Then Thursday, we've got a big day Thursday. All day, we've got the parliamentary elections. Now, it's the election time in the UK, general elections. But guys, something that we need to remember about the general elections is lots of stuff and lots of news can come out before the actual elections. There's polls that come out that kind of give us an indication of who might win, which may come out earlier in the week. So the pound is going to be of high volatility from the get-go this week. As soon as the market opens, I expect Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I expect the pound to be volatile because there's going to be so much news coming out. We're anticipating what might happen on the parliamentary elections. And then obviously the actual result as well could be a huge move in the market. So be careful with pound pairs. We're going to run over them in a minute, but pound is probably going to be the most volatile this week. Along with that, we've got the euro news. We've got the euro policy statement coming out, ECB press conference, the European Central Bank, and then we've also got the Canadian dollar speaking as well. Thursday, very busy day. Then Friday, core retail sales and retail sales from the US. So we know that the retail sales are a big indication of what's going to happen with the economy, or how the economy is doing. So we'll see how that reacts. Now, we had strong US dollar data on Friday. Coming into the Christmas period, retail sales should pick up. So a lot of people can bet on a stronger US dollar. Notoriously, sort of November, December, the retail, the employment should be better. Retail sales should be better because obviously it's coming into the Christmas period. And then January, February, when all the new employment that people take on, new employees over for the Christmas period, they get let go because they're only just working for the Christmas period and so on. And retail sales then drop in January, February, and March. No one's got any money because they spend it all at Christmas and no one does anything. Notoriously, January is the worst month for a lot of businesses. Nobody eats out, so restaurants go quiet, bars, clubs, everything goes quiet in January. So usually things drop off in January. So it builds up at Christmas and then drops down in January. So we should see strong retail sales, but we'll see what happens on Friday. Now, I'm going to start off the week first with the dollar index. So let's just go to this. So dollar index, looking at this, why? Because we had non-farm payroll on Friday. Now, this is an interesting one, dollar index. We've seen a strong push on Friday after the non-farm payroll results. I highlighted this box here because we were highlighting the sort of the breakout candle on the trend line. Bit of a tricky one here, as price on the daily looks like we did break below that level, which we did with broken close. But on the 4-hour here, you can see how it never really sort of convincingly broke. It kind of came down, had a little spike to the downside, never really looked like it was going to continue breaking. Then we broke back up inside. Trendline strategy shown here. We normally allow about 40 pips from this point below. If you're going to look at taking a long trade, as per the trendline strategy that I showed you. And then you can see here, where were we? 40. Yeah, we didn't drop much. We only dropped about 10 pips there. And you can see we had a big push up. So a bit of a fake out there. And it looks like the US dollar is gaining some strength. Not the biggest, not the strongest end to the day though, however. We see this little spike back. So it's an interesting one to watch out for. Now, the reason we're watching this is because we know that after non-farm payroll on the Monday is a day that you have to be very, very careful trading. On non-farm payroll, a lot of people can get manipulated and get pulled into positions that they don't want to be in. Then Monday, they can be holding on, praying that things go back in their direction. These are the 95% of retail traders, guys. They're praying that things go back in their direction, and then the market just plays about a bit and just finishes them off, sort of thing. But we'd have to let the dust settle because the news came out on Friday afternoon. We saw that the market on Friday went up, it went down, it went back up again. And that's why we had a quiet Friday. We stayed back, let the noise happen. We're not going to get involved in the messiness. So we stand back and wait. Now, Monday is sort of the same situation. We have to let the market settle over the weekend as normal. But remember, we are just after non-farm payroll. So we have to let the dust settle on Monday and see what happens. Now, I do always say that Monday is not really a trading day. We did take a trade this Monday, though, however, on USD JPY. But that's what I mean. Sometimes we have to take it as it comes and see what happens. But 9 times out of 10, we don't really take a trade on a Monday. But I'm always vigilant and always ready to take a trade. So Monday, we got to just wait on here and see how the dollar index is going to behave. Drop down to the 4-hour here. We can see we have broken up nicely back within this trend. And what I've been showing you last week is that what's very important to know is that we could come back and retest that trend line just to make sure that it's acting as support to confirm that that is a trend line that is still being used, and then we can push up. So you can see here we've broken back above that level on the daily or on the weekly trend line. And there's a possibility that we might just retest that and then continue pushing up higher. So how the US dollar is going to behave is going to be an interesting one at the early part of the week. But I wouldn't read too much into what happens on Monday. But what I will be looking for is how price reacts around this sort of level here. You can see the sort of level of support here. I'll be watching at how it reacts around that level, around this level here. Popping back into it and tapping that trend line support. So it's a hard one to call. I've explained this before on following following the non-farm payroll figures. It's a hard one to call on the Sniper Sundays because we don't know what the market's going to do yet. But what we can do is look at both scenarios, and so we're ready for both. So that's what we're looking at for at the moment on the US dollar. Should it break back below this level, then I do think then the dollar's going to drop fast. But I think we can find some support here, and we're going to see a push up. Now, if I go to Euro USD first, let's start with the Forex pairs. So Euro USD. This pair now is a bit of a funny one. I'm just going to zoom right out here on the weekly chart. Give us a full picture of this. And this pair, as you can just see here, quite clearly on the weekly chart, is continuously moving in a downtrend. All the way from up here, all the way 1.2500. We just keep moving down on weekly low lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, and so on. The market gives us glimpses that it might try and push up higher, and it might be the time for this to break up higher, especially when we see like a test of this weekly support of 1.100. But you can see here, we've tested this as support, tried to push up, but we're seeming to fail once again. Now, remember, we use trend lines to show us the direction of the market. We can see here, this is where the trend line would have been, but as per my trend line strategy, once we have a fake out here, then we adjust it and we push it to here. We adjust it to this point. Now we can see here that the market pushed up to this level last week, hit that level, hit that resistance, trend line resistance, and now we're pushing back down once again. So the market on a higher time frame for Euro US dollar is still bearish. So that we can see that the US dollar strength is helping push this back down. Now we drop down to the daily. What we can see here is, again, a bit like the dollar index. We saw that this had a push down, but not the most strongest end to the day, and pushed back up slightly. But we are rejecting this weekly trend line. Now, weekly trend lines we know are very, very strong. The higher the time frame, the stronger the support or resistance or trend line. So at the moment, if I just drop down to the 4-hour chart and just adjust this trend line, so it's done perfectly. You can see here, let me just zoom in now. You can see here that we've rejected this level once and twice, and now we're pushing down. So we haven't had the strongest break here, but we have broken through this support. So what I'm going to be looking for on market open is for price to come back to this sort of level to retest as resistance. However, I am also looking at this level here. You can see this level is an area of sort of resistance there as well. This resistance. I think that price can push back up into that level first to show us that it's going to sort of retest this level. Maybe show us that this level can stand as resistance, and then we'll roll over to the downside and then look at coming back down to 1.100. So at the moment on the Euro US dollar, we have shown rejection here. We're pushed down, but I do think that if we're going to continue this push down lower, we're going to create a new lower high. Maybe retest that trend line once more. Should we see that, then I think we can see a big sell coming back down to 1.100. So we're looking at coming back up to around 1.1080 first into the sort of head and shoulders region. We have had this sell off on Friday, but I said I'm not going to jump onto it straight away. We have to see what Monday does, or what Monday is going to do, and how the market settles. So a nice little pullback here on Monday would be nice to see. A bit of weakness on the US dollar perhaps. Just like I explained on the US dollar index, you might see a little bit of weakness first to come back towards this trend line. And then if we do see that, we might see the same thing with Euro USD. Come back to that trend line, and then we can be looking at possibly taking shorts from this level. But at the moment, let me get rid of that. At the moment, there's no trade just yet. Keeping an eye on this one. But yeah, it's quite choppy on Euro USD, as it has been with many US dollar pairs. But we can just see here on a daily, if I just take that out of the way, it gives us a bit more clarity that we might come back up and retest this sort of resistance level first. Retest this first and then roll over to the downside. But also, if I just stretch this out, you can see the sort of daily range as well. That we have got a low, high, equal lows, equal highs. We're sort of within a range here as well, guys. So we can see we're failing to break out. Price just moved sideways, magnetized to the trend line, as I always say. That if there's a trend line there, it will reach out and touch it. And we've done that, and now we're pushing down to the downside. So now we've had the initial push down, so I'm waiting for this to pull back and make a retest. Euro NZD, what a pair this has been, what a trade. We unfortunately had a small loss on this, 0.5% last week. But it happens. It was a high risk trade, and the reason why was because of this. Now, just like I said on, Euro USD about the price magnetizes to the trend lines. This is why one of the second or third webinars was about trend lines, because they're so important. Many people don't understand how important they actually are. But price will magnetize to a trend line if it's there or thereabouts. Now, during the week, we saw some signs that this might reverse when we came down to this sort of support level here, which I'll go to in a minute. And we took a long trade because the market did look like it was going to make a reversal. But I was mindful that there was this sort of support level down here with this trend line, and there was this sort of gap to fill. Now, we saw the signs on a low time frame. Trading is about probability. We saw the signs on the price action, so we took the trade. But because there was that sort of chance that we could drop down, we reduced it to 0.5%. And also that 0.5% trade, really, unfortunately for people who are new in the group, would have felt that loss a little bit harder than the people who have been in the group for 5 or 6 weeks, because we're holding a short from up here where we're still holding 0.25% of our short trade. So 0.25%. So then when we took a long trade of 0.5% and had a loss, it wasn't so much of a loss. This is where hedge trading comes into play so well. Because yes, we might have lost, I don't know, what was it, 20, 30 pips on this, but then we gained another 20, 30 pips of 0.25%. So the loss was halved with our long trade. And then we've actually managed to hold this down for, I think it's 800 pips now from this trade. 6 weeks, or 5-6 weeks we've been holding this short trade, and we now gained 800 pips. So, but what is interesting now, guys, is coming into this week is that weekly trend line that I was watching out for. We've got 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, and 0.4. Now, 0.3 is always the best, the best place to take a trade on a trend line. The third touch is the all-important where you're going to get the biggest movement. As you can see here with the third touch, the big move that we've seen. But the fourth is also very important. If the fourth respects the trend line, it shows that this trend line is very, very strong. And then we can also see a big move. Sometimes the fourth touch the trend line will reject on the third touch very, very strongly. But then if it comes back for the fourth, sometimes we can see that breakthrough. But should it hold, then it can also mean that we may see a very, very big move. Now we're on the fourth touch right now, which is very, very interesting. We have had that little loss, but as I said, if we do get a trade, the next trade will be with the full 1% trade. And so once we win a trade on this pair, that 0.5% will be easily outdone. So at the moment, the people in the group for 6 weeks are now holding this trade for 800 pips, and this is well overdue a pullback on a weekly. However, we are quite bearish. We have got a big bearish week there, so let's not forget that on a weekly. But we are at this third touch of the trend line, or fourth touch. Sort of the third touch, if you take this into consideration, we missed this one out. We've got the third touch here, but overall, this sort of whole trend line, and we're now coming into the fourth touch. So let's drop down to the daily. Daily, we see that we've tried to break out, but we haven't managed. Let me just zoom out here, guys, and just adjust this a little bit. So you can see on the daily, we've tried to break out. So this is the sort of breakout candle that we've attempted to do. Now, what I'm watching for this week here, coming into the next couple of days, is how price reacts along the bottom of this level. Let me just get rid of this box actually, and just put on a level across here. I'm watching out how price reacts around this level. If we fail to break this level, I will be looking at us taking long trades, and you can see this pair possibly push up quite high. We need a well-needed retracement on this. You can see here over the 6 weeks, 800 pips over 6 weeks is quite a big trade. So we need something a sort of bigger, a bit of a retracement to pull up even before the next leg down, but we do need a bit of a retracement here. So I'm going to be watching this level 1.668. Let me just drop down here, sorry guys. 1.6805 is the current level at the moment. If we can hold above this level, then I will be looking at possible trades next week. But I'm going to wait and just let this play out on Monday. Obviously, if the trade comes into play, then we'll take it on Monday. But I'm going to watch out and see how price reacts around this level first. But this is a very, very interesting level for us next week. We've got over an 800 pip short. It might be time to take that hedge trade long and hold this one and ride it up for a good few hundred pips. So top of my watch list, Euro NZD at the moment. Euro GBP, this is also at the top of my watch list. Pound pairs obviously very, very volatile this week. we have smashed through that 0.8500 support. We've smashed through. Told you to stay away from this. No trade on this just yet. And this is what happens when we break through a support like this. We break through, pull down, pull down. So we have one drive, two drive, have a little push up to the upside, bring in long buyers thinking that it's gonna push back up. That's just a liquidation pool to get people to take a long trade, and then bang, we push back down again. Now, it's the last bit of the short squeeze, I think. I think we're going to come down, maybe come into the 8400 level, the weekly support, the next weekly support level. And then from there, we may be looking at this pair coming up higher. So I am interested in this pair mainly around this level. And if we come to here, we might see very, very nice long trades. But remember about the pound. The pound is very volatile. So we may see a lot of volatility this week. But I do think that regardless, we have to think of technicals as well. But this pair is very, very oversold at the moment. Just look at it on the weekly. This is another one that I've been holding for 3 months now. Gave this in August to the community. So some of you are still holding this. We literally caught this. And it's just amazing at how far trades can go if you just let your winners run. So many people will hold on to losses for days and days and weeks, hold on to losses, hoping that it will turn around and then get their accounts blown by not using stop losses. But then when they have got a winning trade, they won't hold on to it for a day or two. It's just crazy. Here you can see I've been holding this for 3 months and it's an 800 pip trade. Here you can see Euro NZD I've been holding for 6 weeks and it's an 800 pip trade. So that's 1600 pips in 2 trades, which is more than some people make in 6 months. So yeah, we are coming to a very oversold sort of area now, and we've taken out the previous lows. I think that we're coming down into see even this region over here now, that we're going to tap into this sort of support area over here. So I think once we come down to the 0.8400 level, all eyes will be on looking at taking a long trade, a well overdue retracement at least. Euro JPY, something that I'm looking at on this pair. Again, not really giving us too much to look at recently. What I'm looking at this on a weekly chart is that we are rejecting this weekly sort of trend line here, 0.1, 0.2, and we just rejected that last week and rolled over back down to the downside. However, what I'm interested in this week on this pair is that this is the outer trend line, support. Then we got the inner, which we've just broken out or tried to break out of, or trying to break out of currently. Let me just move that one out of the way. And what's interesting about this, why I'm interested, is that we're at this one round significant psychological level of 1.200. Price has tried to break through. I'm going to watch this on the daily. This breakout candle on the daily chart. Really, I don't need to highlight this. The bottom of that daily breakout candle is 1.200. So what I'm watching out for now, if I just move this one out of the way, is you can see this resistance level here, and we know 1.20 is a round significant level. So what I'm watching out for this week is how this is going to behave around the 1.200 level on Monday, or as the market opens. Will we be able to continue the breakdown, the breakout of this counter trend line, or is this going to be a fake out as shown on the trend line strategy? See here, that's the breakout on the 4-hour candle. This is the breakout candle here. Highlight that we're hitting the 1.20 level, so we might find some support and see a push up from here. So that's what I'm watching out for. Again, need to be careful, but if price plays around here, we might see a little retracement. But at the moment, we are short on USD JPY, so we need to be careful. If this does break through here, then I do see price coming back out and pushing out towards this outer trend line. But yeah, we'll have to see how this plays out. We might see a push up first and then a push down. But I'm just keeping an eye on this one and just bringing it to your attention. But it's something that we'll be watching out for next week. GBP USD, this one done exactly like I said last week. Knew it was going to push up higher. So many people were looking at trying to take a short trade on this, but it just wasn't ready yet. You can see higher highs, this big daily push. We just consolidated for a little while, then we continued the daily push. Now we're coming up to, we've broken straight through that 1.300 level, coming up towards the next sort of weekly resistance, which is about another 120 pips above us. Not sure we're going to quite make that just yet. The pound on a lower time frame starting to show a little bit of weakness. but not an awful lot just yet. On Friday, we started having a little push down, but every push down, we rejected it and couldn't really sustain. So we can see here we're just still making higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows. I will be watching around this level, guys, as the market opens. See how we react. See how the market is reacting over any news from the UK with the elections over the weekend. If we do fail to sort of break above here, then we might see a push to the downside. I've explained to you guys before that with the pound pair, with these monthly key levels and support levels, you can break these up. You can see here that these are 500s between the monthly supports. Then we got the weekly 250 in between, and then you can even break these up again. So we just take that Fibonacci tool just to work out the midway point between the two. It's a 50% level. You can see here we may be finding some. I'll just add this to the lower one as well, guys, just so you can see how it works. Some pairs react to different resistance levels, so it can be 500s, can be 250s, can be 125s. So you can see here, if I just remove this out of the way, that price may come up and retest. It's getting a bit choppy, so I'm not going to keep it on too long. But you can see here how prices reacted to this level. Just perfect that, it would be 1.2875, and then this level here would be 1.3125. That price is currently rejecting. You can see here we found rejection, and some various rejection before resistance. So let me just clear this out of the way. So you can put that on your charts if you wish, guys. But yeah, I'll be watching price around this 1.3125 level as well. We might use this as a resistance and pull back down to 1.3000 before perhaps a push up higher. We are overstretched here on the pound, but with the volatility with the pound, anything can happen and it can really go for another push easily. So be very, very careful, but keep that level on your chart to look out for. 1.3125 is a level that may act as resistance. You can see here we're broken above, use that as support at the moment, but should we break below that, then we could come back down to 1.30. But we'll keep an eye on these, on the pound pairs, and keep you up to date. Also, GBP JPY keeps pushing up higher. We've had that push up above this consolidation zone. Again, explained not to take a short on this. And again, guys, this is why the community is so good, because it's not only about what trades to take, it's about the trades not to take. Now, there probably would have been loads of you. There was actually a lot of you messaged me saying that you actually took a trade on this short, but then once seeing my analysis, you cut your short trade and then you took a long trade and made money on the profit on the long. Now, that's what I mean by not stopping you from losing trades as well as making money on trades. Highlighting that this was going to push higher and not to take a short trade and get caught by this fake move here. We've now pushed up higher. We've had to add more levels above because this keeps pushing up. 142.50 acting as resistance here. 14500 is the next. But as I said, we may just see a pullback from around these levels. Possibly only just back to sort of this resistance level again. We could pull back into here. But yeah, I'm keeping an eye on it. It's too early to call it. Pound could be very volatile this week. And as I said, we need to see how the market reacts from over the weekend. So keeping an eye on that one, and we'll come back to it during the week. USD JPY, short trade we're holding, nearly coming back to the lows of last week. We're doing well on this trade at the moment. Let me just see what percentage we were up. Just talking about percentages, guys, I will update for the group on the trading log as well. Euro NZD, we are still running about 5% profit on this one at the moment, or maybe a bit more. We're running at about 4 or 5% at least on that short trade. We've taken some profit on this trade that we took from the top, but we're still running about 4 or 5%, which is great for that trade. This trade was taken in October, and October wasn't the greatest month for many people. It was very choppy in October. And we finished in profit for the month, but we never accounted this trade, Euro NZD, because it was still running. Now this trade, if we took profit now, would be 5%, so it turned that month into a very profitable month. But with the trading log, we have to take trades from when we close them, but I'll explain that to you once I drop that trading log into the group. So USD JPY, as I said, where are we now with this? We're currently running around 1.5%. So we're running nearly at 3%, but we only put 0.5% risk on this one. So we're running at about 1.5%. I do expect this one to push down a little bit lower. Looking at these levels to be taken out, come down and make a new lower low. Let me just go to the daily chart here. So what we can see here is we did have a breakout here. The daily breakout candle. We came back to retest the trend line. Wasn't able to break it. Following day wasn't able to break it. So it looks like this is holding as resistance, and now we're going to roll down back down to the downside. If we drop down to the 4-hour chart, you can see this is a nice pullback into sort of this level here. Nice round figure of 10900. You can see here. Came back, retested that as sort of resistance, and now we're rolling over to the downside. A little bit of a head and shoulders here. We'll drop down to the 1 hour. You can see here a little bit of left shoulder, head, right shoulder, and now we look like we're going to push down. We've got this little counter trend line that's going to act as our last support. Once this snaps and breaks, we're going to break down to 10800. We should come down to 10800. We might find some support around here, 10830, but I'm looking at my next target coming down to 10800, and from there we will watch how this pair reacts. So we might look at taking some profit around these levels, but I will update. But at the moment, still holding this trade and expecting some more downside to push down to that 10800 area this week. Might have a bit of playing around on Monday when the market opens, but still expecting this to continue this push down and come down to that level. USD CAD, a very, very choppy one and a hard one to call, guys, at the moment. It's extremely choppy. I explained on last week that I was watching for price ahead of Friday to come down into this level. Then we might see a reversal. We did see the reversal, but unfortunately didn't come down into a support zone to warrant looking at taking a trade. But we saw a very quick reversal due to the Canadian dollar news, a snap move, big bullish candle, coming back up to the sort of range that we were in for days and weeks, or days I think, maybe not weeks, but up here you can see we're in this consolidation zone for a long time. We can see we come back up and retesting that now, perhaps creating a right shoulder, but we know that on the bigger scale, on the bigger time frames, right shoulders don't just touch and move away straight away. Like any trade, if we're going to reject an area, we'll play around there for a while or reject more than once. So what I'll be watching out for this week is, or early this week, is how price is going to react around this level. If it continues to reject this level, then we might be looking at a short trade back down. But this pair is very, very choppy and hard to read at the moment. Remember, originally with this pair, if I just zoom out here on the daily chart, stretch this in a little bit. On the daily chart, we sort of had this level here. It had a bit of a triangle last week. I did expect price to sort of try and come up and manipulate and take out the previous high. Fortunately, didn't come up that high enough. Then we saw a breakdown. We've now broken out that consolidation zone we're in for days, and we're retesting that as resistance. So I'll be watching out for this level, as explained, coming into next week, seeing how we play around here. We might see a little pull away first, and then go back up to retest again as a second resistance. So I'm not going to jump on the first sort of the first move, as this is now bullish and could continue to push up higher. So I'm going to watch at how price reacts around here on Monday, and then we might see ourselves a nice trade. USD Swiss, strange one as well. If I just go to the weekly chart on this one, this pair has been very, 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 very choppy. So let's just look at this on the weekly over the past 3-4 weeks. Down, up, down, up, down, up, down. It's just up. It's just all over the place. It's literally just bearish engulfing, bullish engulfing, bearish engulfing sort of scenario. Very, very choppy. You can see here on the weekly. Then we drop down to the daily. You can see how choppy that is. We'll just stretch this out. You can see that level there. And so what we don't know is this going to continue the choppiness, or are we finally going to break out? We do have this nice breakout here, broken out here on the daily. If we highlight that level, we can see that we haven't actually broken it. So nice long trade there on the breakout strategy. But we can see that we're just finding resistance at this trend line. So we may just find resistance there, and we could push down. But currently, with the stronger US dollar, this may just push back up again. So tricky one with the US dollar, tricky one with USD Swiss. So I'm going to have to stay away from that and not call anything on that at the moment, and see how the US dollar is going to behave this week. Aussie dollar, just like USD CAD. Remember, USD CAD and Aussie dollar can often work in negative correlation with each other. So you can see that USD CAD is quite choppy, and so is Aussie dollar. At the moment, on the Australian dollar US dollar chart, if I just take these out of the way, we can just see here on the daily chart that price doesn't really know what it wants to do next. We've had a big, nice little bullish move up here. Off the trend, we've got a new trend line here, 0.1, 0.2. This was originally over here. We broke out. You can see here, breakout here. Breakout, couldn't sustain a break below this sort of support level here. And we had a quick move up. We were waiting for it. We were watching that all last week, early last week. But we wanted it to come a little bit lower, but it took off in the early hours of, I think, Sunday evening when the market opened and didn't give us a chance to enter. But we pushed up here now. We adjust this trend line, move that out to here. Nice push up, then a doji candle, sort of a doji candle, and another doji candle. Price doesn't really know where it wants to go. On the daily, we do have this sort of void that we could come up to. We've got the resistance level, and we've got this sort of form of right shoulder resistance, and we've also got this 0.6875 level that we could come up and push up to, given that we have just got this sort of daily bullish move here. But we drop down to the 4 hour, we can see it's getting even choppier, and that's why I had this triangle formation. And as explained, triangle formations often have many fake outs before the real move. Drop down to the 1 hour here, we can see we had a fake up to the upside, a fake out to the downside, and now price is in the middle and doesn't really know where it wants to go next. So keeping an eye on this one. Not too sure where this is going to go just yet. It's quite choppy and hard to read. And so we are on having this move up. We've had a nice move up here. We're making a higher low. Haven't been able to make a higher high, but we haven't made a new higher low just yet. So just keeping an eye on this one. We do have a triple top here though, guys. This is what's is a little bit interesting here. Do have a sort of triple top here, which is an interesting one that we might sort of we might find some resistance here. We've had 1 test, 2 tests, 3 tests, triple top. So we are finding some resistance, but as I said, it is within a triangle. So it's one that you can't really call yet. We can have a breakout of a triangle and then it can take off fast. But what you might see is a bit more playing around within this triangle. On Monday, we've got the Reserve Bank of Australia speaking Monday evening. So that might then see the next move on this pair. A pair that I'm looking at the moment, purely I just want to show you guys something. Aussie dollar, New Zealand dollar. Now you can see here I've just got a daily trend line here, or 4 hour trend line. This pair doesn't interest me too much, but what I'm just showing you here is Aussie dollar, New Zealand dollar is a good pair to look out for, because it can tell you what is the stronger pair between the Aussie Australian dollar and New Zealand dollar. So because obviously they're very similar to each other, and when you're analysing pairs like Aussie dollar, US dollar, or New Zealand dollar, US dollar, it can help you give an idea of what's the stronger pair. So you can see here at the moment, Aussie dollar, New Zealand dollar, the New Zealand dollar has been the stronger pair, pushing the Aussie dollar all the way down. We've been in a downtrend for a long time, pushing down, pushing down, pushing down, pushing down. You can see here we've got the outer trend line, and we've got this little 1 hour trend line on the inner trend line. And then at the end of last week, we had this 1 hour bullish engulfing. It's a good thing just to keep an eye on, even if you don't trade it, again, just to measure the strength of currencies, where you have to do cross-referencing to understand what currencies are strong against other currencies and give us an understanding of how strong that currency is. So before you take a trade, you see here that this was to see a push back up, and then we could see this push back up and break above this trend line, maybe push out to this trend line and break through. It will show us that the Australian dollar is going to get stronger, but it will also show us that the New Zealand dollar is getting weaker. So we can take that over to the next trade that we're looking at, which is the New Zealand dollar. So here you can see we've had a slight little weaken on Friday at the end of the market, and we can see that we also saw that on the New Zealand dollar. We just go to the 1 hour chart. You can see here that we've also had that 1 hour and that little just push down weakening on at the end of the market. But let's look at New Zealand dollar, US dollar on the higher time frames. One hell of a bullish week for the New Zealand dollar last week. We were looking at this pair coming down and taking a short on it. Did show us the signs, but it just kept going. So once we got taken out at our NZD JPY trade, and we got taken out of our Euro NZD trade, NZD JPY for most was at break even, and Euro NZD we lost at 0.5%. But once we realised that this New Zealand dollar pair wasn't stopping, that's why I stood aside and waited for it to show us what it wanted to do before we took a new trade. Weekly, big weekly candle here, very strong. We got this sort of weekly trend line coming across. We do again look like we're going to come up and test this, sort of magnetizing towards the top here. Even if we put this across here, we got this longer term weekly trend line. Looks like price could just fill up this gap, keep pushing up to fill that gap first. However, on the daily, we are starting to show signs of slowing down slightly. And what we've seen before on many pairs is that we may just see a little bit of a pullback first before actually being able to push up and tap that level. So I'm going to watch this pair early next week. We are very bullish on New Zealand dollar at the moment after last week. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bullish days. Still looks like we can push up higher. So what I'm going to be watching for the New Zealand dollar next week is to come up to these levels here. And this is interesting because how the New Zealand dollar reacts is going to be interesting for our Euro NZD trade. If the New Zealand dollar continues to be bullish, we're going to see this breakdown through this trend line and continue pushing lower on Euro NZD. So I'm watching out for how that's going to react and how the New Zealand dollar US dollar is going to react. We might see, as I said, we're starting to see some strange price action here. Prices tried to push down a few times, keeps getting pushed back up. A little bit of a bearish candle at the end of the market, but that was the end of the market, so it doesn't really mean much to us. But we don't have far to push out to fulfill this sort of trend line out here. But as I said, I wouldn't be surprised if we see some bearishness from NZD USD first. Come back down, maybe retest the support level 0.6500 before we see a push back up to the upside. So we might see a little pullback down before pushing up higher. But I do expect price to come out and touch that weekly sort of trend line that I've just shown you and come up and tap that sort of level. So keeping an eye on that coming into next week, and NZD JPY as well. As I said, we did get taken out of this trade, but I am keeping a close eye on this one. So you can see here, third touch of the trend line about to come into play here, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 on the daily chart. We haven't quite made it just yet. We have this former resistance level over here that we can see. We have got some resistance coming into play. On the daily chart, we can see that these candlesticks are starting to show that price is slowing down. Started to slow down here. Did pull back, but pushed up. Found newfound New Zealand dollar strength. Bit of a doji candle, but together sort of forming a tweezer top. Just showing that price is starting to slow down. So again, could push up a little bit more to tap that trend line, and I'll be interested in price once it comes up to there and once we see some resistance. We'll be watching it early in the week though. We have seen a little bit of bearishness early in the week, at the end of last week, sort of forming a double top here. So I will be watching it just in case we see some early movement back down and we don't make that resistance, that trend line resistance. We've got a sort of hanging man here and a bearish engulfing, not bearish engulfing yet, but a bit of a hanging man, double top. So there's a few signs that price might start to push down from here. But I'm going to be watching around here early next week. So that's one for us to watch out for. And then now the commodities. We're looking at gold. Gold's an interesting one. So I've had this level drawn on with gold. We were watching this last week. Watching for this price to sort of break out and tap this 1450 level. Looking for it to come a little bit lower. Maybe retest these previous lows for us to look at a trade. There was a few small moves on gold last week, but we haven't done a lot with gold. You can see here that we're sort of been trapped within this range on gold. We pushed down here, and we've touched the 1450 level, and then we've now come back up and retested the 1475 area. At the moment, we've broken that trend line and we pushed back up. We adjust that trend line, and you can see that this trend line is a daily stroke weekly trend line, so it is quite strong. So what I'm watching out for here is how price is going to react now that we're retesting that level one more time. And we're coming back down to there. We could break through. I'm going to be looking at price all around this level here, around the 1450, and maybe a breakthrough this trend line. If price drops into here, we might see a sort of triple bottom, and then price reverse up to the upside. I will be interested in price, perhaps if it does break through this trend line, coming to maybe retesting the previous supports around here. So all around here is very interesting levels for gold coming into next week. So yeah, I'm waiting for price to basically make its next move and to see if it can push down and break down into that support zone, maybe create a fake out. I highlighted last week that we do have this trend line above. that I think price is going to come up to. So we're now sort of coming into this level where we've got a strong support zone, and we've got a resistance level that we look like we're going to come up and test. So first off, I'm going to wait for gold to come down. It's not that far from where we are now, to come down, maybe make a fake out, see how we react. If we do break out on a daily chart of this daily trend line, then I'll be watching for maybe a trend line strategy fake out. But I'm going to watch for price to maybe dip into this level, test this 1450 for one more time. Or we may even break down and try and take out this previous low here at 1445, and then we could see a big turnaround and a big push up to the upside. So yeah, interesting one on gold, and the last one on oil, just something that we were watching out for. We had an OPEC meeting last week, so stayed away from this. We had a breakout to the upside here on oil, but we were within this range which I showed you. Looking at this on a weekly time frame, we can see here that we do have this trend line just above us here, which we haven't tapped just yet. We have just broken out of this inner trend line on a daily, so I do think we've got a little bit more room to the upside to tap that level before this perhaps looking to come down to the downside. So at the moment, we just adjust these trend lines. You can see here we've just broken out of this this sort of range, so we just cleared that out of the way to keep this clear. I do think that price is going to come up to this level, and also at that level we've got a psychological level of $60 per barrel that I think that we're going to come up and tap before we make any further moves. So I'm watching for oil to have another little bit of a push up to the upside, bit of a shooting star there, but I do expect this to come up, test that weekly trend line, and from there it could be very, very interesting. And then this will obviously take an effect on Canadian dollar pairs as well. So looking for oil to come up to that $60 per barrel level first, and then we'll be watching out for future trades. So we could have a trade on oil coming into next week. That's about it, guys. There's a good few pairs there, a good few different scenarios, but mainly remember we've got lots of fundamentals next week. Euro NTD is an interesting one for us. Pound pairs are going to be on my watch list and watching how they react to Euro GBP around these low levels here. But at the moment, it's about sitting back on Monday, I think, see how the market reacts and settles, and then we can look at taking trades. So, as I said, lots of different variations there, but busy week coming up, lots of fundamentals all week, and as I said, I'll be dropping in some stuff into the group as well, the webinar, and we'll be doing a live stream. So I'll update the group on that and what date they're going to be and time. I'll update that to the group calendar, and I'll also update the fundamental calendar to the pinned messages within the group, so there's easy access so you can see them. But remember, guys, things can update all the time, so always keep an eye on the fundamental calendar and refresh it, because each day things can be added, so you always need to be aware of the market. Have a great evening. We'll see what happens on market open, see how the market reacts from the news over the weekend, and how Monday reacts to the non-farm payroll, and then we'll go from there. So have a great evening, and I'll speak to you soon.